What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode for the Northern Illinois Wrestling Podcast. Tonight on the podcast, or today, we're still midday here. I'm going to be joined by the head wrestling coach from Sandwich High School. And in these postseason episodes, we're kind of going to jump through the season, go through the ups and downs, and see how these guys finished out. I know Sandwich had a really good season, and they build off of last year. I think this is 2 years in a row they won the regional and advanced to team sectionals. So we're going to get to talk about that. They had a state placer, and yeah, I just looking forward to catching up. At the beginning of the season, we had the coaches on, and they talked about how they had a lot of things headed in the right direction, and this is going to be another opportunity to hear about that. So, um, without further ado, here's the episode. Well, Coach Derek Jones from Sandwich High School, welcome to the podcast. Yeah, how do you feel? It's been a long season. Obviously, it's a long season for everybody. We talked at the beginning of the year, and you guys were so busy with so many levels of the program. Just what's your initial reaction to the high school season?
Um, just like you said, it's a long season, so there's a lot of things that we, you know, schedule and debate on how we run the program and things like that to better suit us as a program throughout the year. Sometimes it kind of backfires on us a little bit. We had some injury bugs and things like that popped up, and just I don't know if it was a state of Illinois thing, but almost every team we talked to had some sort of flu bug or norovirus or whatever the heck was running through their programs. So I felt like for a while there we were bumping into teams that were dealing with that, and we were like, we've been good so far. We've had one or two issues, but throughout the whole season it just turned into illness or injury, or we had a kid who broke his collarbone at sectionals, and it's just like, oh geez, of course now is the time when we get hit with something like that. So but no, overall it was a good season. It's long. Maybe looking at changing a few things in the future, just so we maybe get some kids more training time and less competition. But I always struggle with the debate between if you're sick for a week and you miss 8 matches, trying to catch up and make those up. So that's why we kind of overschedule. So if you happen to miss a couple duels or a tournament or something, we still have things on the schedule.
Yeah.
But overall, I think our season went well. Biggest high school wrestling team we've had since I've been here. We had 34 boys and 11 girls. Doesn't seem like a lot, but the year we went to team state, we had 19 kids on our team. So to have almost double that is exciting to see. And our middle school program had over 75 kids, and our kids club had over 100 kids again. So things are just trending in the right direction.
Yeah, those are great numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Just to go into those numbers, like, do you have like a retention aspect? Like, out of 34, is that at the beginning of the season, or is that closing out the season?
That was closing out the season. We were probably over 40 when we started with boys. We just lose some kids here and there from, I want to give it a shot, and it's not for me. And then we also have some kids that coaching football and other sports in the fall, we kind of pull them along and get them to join the sport. We had a couple kids that did it as freshmen and didn't see their early successes. So, they had fun, but, it's a lot of hard work for, losing matches and getting beat up in the practice room. And they finally kind of met their end, and they're like, you know what, this just isn't for me. So,
yeah. Well, just to plant this seed, hopefully next year I have ambitions of trying to coordinate some type of lower level schedule so that so that there's like a consistency past that Christmas break part. because what I hear a lot and what I experience myself as a coach is like oftentimes some of those kids that you're pulling into the room and you're trying to get them out for wrestling, well then after the first of the year, there's really not too many things that they get ready for. So
Hmm.
coming to practice is kind of like, what am I doing for, so on and so forth. So some of that stuff, keeping competitions going throughout the season, for them could potentially keep them around, but yeah, it's a challenge because, like we said, even for the diehard wrestler, it's a long season, and if you're not a diehard, then it can add up mentally and physically on you. So,
For
um,
sure.
when you think about the youth club and the middle school, how do you guys kind of determine which like state series and how you do that stuff? Because I've seen a lot of people mess around with that when it comes to the middle school kids.
Yeah, so the way that we kind of just set up our program, since I've been a part of it, and this was kind of something that the previous regime had set in place, but we wrestle our kids club in IKWF state, our kindergarten through fourth grade. And then once they get into fifth grade, they're allowed to compete for our middle school team. Um, so then fifth through eighth grade, they wrestle IE. We just kind of have that structured that way. We've started talks and we've opened it up a little bit here and there, especially with our numbers growing. That we've had some kids that don't crack the like middle school varsity lineup that then can go and wrestle at like the novice and senior state for kids club as well, just so they have that state experience. But we just all are in the same path and we're pushing forward to that, that team goal. And our kids, they don't know any different, and they just want to compete and they love competing as a team. But yeah, that's kind of how we organize it. We have, like I said, kids club through fourth grade, and then I would say a majority of the kids wrestle IESA state. We have a few stragglers, mostly the girls for sure at the middle school level. They all go IK, just because there's not a middle school girls program
Yeah.
in IESA quite yet. So,
Well, with fifth grade, so most middle schools are sixth grade, right?
mhm.
So you can do fifth grade,
Yeah, IESA is fifth through eighth.
but
So
you
our middle school actually doesn't have fifth grade. It's just sixth, seventh, and eighth, but we pull in our fifth grade kids. Um,
and is that like high school where you only get one individual to represent for the state series?
so IESA allows you to have two.
Okay, two. All
So
right,
we
that's
get
good.
two per weight. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent. And I get a lot of I don't say a lot actually. I don't get a lot of pushback, but some of the old school people that I talk to, they push back on it. But I wish high school you could have at least two kids per weight class to represent, because I just, I mean, why not one and then two? Sometimes with the weight cutting, everybody says that they're trying to protect kids from weight cutting, but when you have two good kids at one weight class, you make one make some type of decision. So
Right.
um, why not have two kids from the same team be able to compete in the state series? Like, I don't know. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I mean,
especially at the youth level, and obviously what you're saying at the middle school level, you can do that. So,
right. And that's awesome for them. I mean, especially at that age, being able to have that, starter mentality or whatever. They're in that starting lineup. So,
has it happened yet? I haven't followed enough in recent years, but has there been like a state finals match with teammates?
um, not that I know of from Sandwich. I'm sure there's been other schools and programs that have had one and two. Um,
Okay.
I know we won the middle school program, they won their regional this year and they won their sectional over Coal City. There was a handful of sectional matches where it was like Sandwich versus Sandwich kids or Coal City versus Coal City kids.
Okay.
And I'm sure there's been some Coal City kids or something like that have made the finals, but I don't
Yeah.
follow it that closely unless, it happened to be a Sandwich versus Sandwich
Yeah.
match. And
There's a lot, just from following wrestling, there's so many results and so many matches. It's very difficult. But speaking of that, so you guys won regionals in the middle school. That's pretty cool. But I was just kind of introducing you beforehand, and you guys won high school regionals for the second time in a row. And yeah, just and again, I don't want to say you weren't favorited, because I think who else was in that regional?
It was Princeton.
Princeton was kind of the favorite, at least from paper, what we've kind of perceived. But you guys showed up and wrestled phenomenal at the regional. So how did that tournament go, and what happened that allowed you guys to kind of emerge as the winners?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to what I started the show with, I mean, we were dealing with, not that we're special, but we were dealing with injury and illness throughout the year. So I think there was, I would have to go back and look, but probably less than 5 dual meets the whole year where we were able to wrestle our starting varsity lineup that we had for our regional tournament. Princeton, had a couple hiccups. I think they had a couple kids get pulled day of. One blew weight and one had a skin issue. But other than that, I mean, it was going to come down neck to neck with them either way. I knew we had a shot if we wrestled really well, and we get down into those regional tournaments and point scoring starts getting a little bit wacky with, we had probably 2 or 3 4-man brackets where, we're winning by, fall in the semis, but getting, half as many points as some of the other kids that have, 8-man brackets and things like that. So I thought we wrestled well. We wrestled as a team. There was a lot of, a big message of mine all the time is tournaments are individual. You just keep winning and advancing, and team points take care of themselves. But that day, for sure, I was like, if we got them on their back, we better, end it and not protect leads, and because it could come down to a tech fall versus a pin or things like that. That's how close I was expecting it to be. We kind of put it away a little bit with like probably halfway through the finals matches where I was like, okay, I think we're done. And I think we got it locked up. But it took, if there was, however many matches, like there was probably 7 matches left in the tournament when I was like, okay. So it really came down to everybody doing their job. I was extremely proud of how we wrestled. We had a couple things that going in, I probably wasn't expecting that happened good for us, and a couple things that didn't happen, or that happened that I was expecting it to go good and it went bad. So, but no, we stuck together. We had 11 sectional qualifiers, which is huge. I think we've been right around that, somewhere between 8 and 11 all the years. And yeah, this is my 6th year. We had the COVID year, which it was IWCOA, and we actually hosted those regionals and sectional tournaments, which turned into a big mess because it ended up being like huge regionals and huge sectionals, the number of teams coming out of, or kids coming out of each one. But if you just count the 5 years where we had IHSA regionals, we won 4 of the 5 regional championships. And the one we lost was the year we lost to Yorkville Christian when they won the state championship. So
you send 11 wrestlers to the sectional, you win regionals. That sectional we've talked a lot about on this podcast, but this year it showed up again. I mean, it had a phenomenal state tournament as far as how they placed and how many state champions and so on. You only get 2 individuals through to the state tournament. How close were some of those guys getting into the sectional, like wrestlebacks? How many did you have in the blood round? And
we only had 1 other that was in the blood round. I think we had 1 or 2 other that lost in the round right before that. But I mean, like at 157, the top 4 kids in the state were in the top 4 in our sectional. So that was just a meat grinder of a sectional. And our kids, tough, but he took last year off after he tore his ACL in football. I mean, he wrestled a handful of matches and then decided he needed to get it fixed. And, he's a heck of a wrestler, but he just, after having all that time off from recovering from his ACL surgery and things like that, it was just a tough go. Our 75-pounder and our 90-pounder, they're tough, but they needed the bracket to fall a certain way, and we just had, a match or a position not go our way, but we're right there. Our 132 pounder, Colton Stone, he was a state qualifier last year at 113, and he just kind of, outgrew his britches a little bit and caught himself into a bracket with some bigger kids. Skill for skill, he matches up, and he matched up okay in those in that bracket with some of those kids. But like I said, you better be on your game 100% that day on Saturday sectionals, especially in Oregon this year.
Yeah. I don't think we didn't do a total like recap of that sectional as opposed to like how it played out with state. We did talk about some of the stuff, but I think it's so hard to comprehend that so many of those weight classes, the top 4 kids were either all state placers or all right there for state medals. So it is an extremely tough 1A sectional. It's by far the hardest 1A sectional in the state. And then if you compared it to other sectional brackets as far as competitiveness to get to the state tournament, there's a lot of good kids that stay home at that sectional. But going down to the state tournament, you have one state placer, correct?
Yep.
Cooper Quarter. Just tell me about your two guys that made it to state and how they performed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Cooper, he performed well. He lost in the consolation semis to the kid we lost to in the sectional semis, both times in overtime. He was dealing with, it's a whole list of things, but he broke his nose a while ago, and complications from that and an illness. It just caused a lot of delays in him getting back to full health, and he was pushing through, but his gas tank just wasn't there, with the training and all that we missed. But he was able to, stick it out. He got it back and took 5th place. He lost in the semis to the state champ from Richmond Burton, Emmett Nelson. We wrestled him earlier in the year in conference, and it came down to kind of a last-second takedown. We were down 4-3 and gave up kind of a late takedown off of trying to push the position to get one at the end. And Emmett ended up beating us 7-3. But I think that's a very competitive match, and it didn't look that competitive down at state. But again, that had more to do with Cooper's training and everything leading up to that with his illness. But no, I mean, he's just one freaking tough son of a gun. I mean, he gutted it out. He's got big goals. Last year, I think he was 6-2 at Fargo, just misplacing. And so he's planning on doing that again this summer, and he doesn't ever stop. He just keeps wrestling all year.
And he's a junior, correct?
He's a
sophomore. So still a sophomore. So 2-time state placer as a sophomore. A lot to look forward to for you then.
Yeah, 100%. And then this 8th grade group we had. I don't know. I think last I heard there was over 20 8th graders coming up. We'll lose a couple here or there. Just high school wrestling is a little different. So some of these kids decide not to come out, but the more that we can keep, the better. A lot of talent that, middle school coaches and kids club coaches have been developing over the past few years. But our other state qualifier, Devin Blanchard, he lost in the blood round at state. He lost in overtime in the the quarterfinals to make the semis to the kid, I think, who took 3rd or 4th. And then in the blood round, we were wrestling Tidwell from Vandalia, and I think it was 3-0. It was close. It was close, and we almost had
3-0 until
he was back at one
3rd.
point, but we went out of bounds, and then we were pushing the pace at the end again to try to get a takedown and tie it up or whatever. It might have been 3-1, and then we get caught in a split and pin. But that was end of the match. But it was close. He was right there to place. I mean, he's right there with most of those kids, especially down there. And but he was a senior, so we'll miss him next year for sure. But his younger brother, Jackson, he was a sectional qualifier, regional champ for us this year. And he just went to the IWCOA Fresh Soft tournament. And I think he lost. I don't know. He made the quarters. And I think he lost. But so I think he was just a round or two short of being top 8 down there. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's a lot to build off of. 26 kids coming in is a lot. I mean, we were talking about if you just could graduate at least 10 per age group, and that would be good for the high school program. But 26 is a large amount of kids to come in. Obviously, when you have a sophomore in the position to be a leader for the young kids coming in, that's a lot to build off of. Two regional titles as a team, it really sets the tone as far as what's the kind of competitive expectation. Are you? I mean, I know you're probably excited to see what comes into the near future, but how do you think other people are kind of in the program, um, coming around to the belief structure of, like, you guys can do good things, you guys can put yourself into the team race, whether it's regional or eventually into the state team race, having individuals competing for individual state titles. Like, are you seeing the culture shift now?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there's just getting the right people around our kids and getting the right kids in and getting them to believe the right things. I think the talent level and the numbers have always been here. And this is not to say anything about anybody else that was around the kids previously. I just think that we've kind of all, got on the same path. And I think that, we also had I don't remember. I think he's a sixth grader. He won the middle school state championship. So we did have a state champ in Sandwich this year. Previous one was Cooper in middle school. But I think we've gotten to the point where we're building our program. We're making it enjoyable. Kids are seeing the benefit of hard work and being around and putting in that time and effort. And then actually me and Coach Lehman, Josh, we were just talking about probably when we were down at individual state about how do we kind of morph it into kind of the next level, because we don't want to just keep hanging around these top 16 finishes in the state. Like I said, we've won 4 regionals in 3 years. We've gone home on team sectional Tuesday. So we're kind of tired of doing that. We want to be going down to Bloomington, on Friday and Saturday, bringing home state trophies. So we're just talking about what needs to change as far as our culture even further, just to have that success continue to grow. Obviously we're very happy. We're very excited with the numbers in the program. And as they continue to just have that success at a lower level, once they get to the middle school level and our level, we'll be ready to start pushing them a little bit harder. Because we've been fighting that battle with, like I said, when we made team state, we had 11 seniors in our lineup. I knew we could push them hard, and it was able to get to that point where, we beat Lena Winslow in the team sectional and qualified. But we just fight that battle all the time of pushing them too hard and getting them to walk out the door versus, pulling them inch by inch, along the path to success. And I think we're getting to the point now where we can start having that cultural shift a little bit to be a little bit more harder on them to get more of that success out. Because I think we're starting to get wrestlers.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good thing too, is once you get to, not that breaking point, but that breakthrough point, you no longer have to do that much pushing, because they're being led by people like Cooper Corder and the kids that are coming through that already have success. Because once you have success, it's really hard to not want that success. So you don't have to desire it for the kids as much, because they have it intrinsically in themselves. So I think you guys are, from the outside looking in, I think that, the hardest part is to trust that breakthrough will come, and then you don't have to do as much. The horses lead all the others, yeah. Right? So it's like, it seems like you guys are pretty close to that moment. Obviously, there are a lot of programs in that team sectional area. that are kind of doing the same. So it's a good sign for wrestling in the area in general. Like the competitiveness is going to rise. I really think that it's a good thing when not just one team is kind of dominating, whether or not if it's like four teams that are putting together really good duels. That's a good sign for just wrestling in general. So.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be easy. We're never going to walk to the state finals by any
Yeah.
means. There's never going to be you might be like, okay, this is an okay draw. Like, I know that we can compete with these teams, but it's never like, oh, let's book our hotels for Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday at team state, because it's always like, who knows, man.
Yeah, and then like you said, the hardest part about wrestling is the uncontrollables, right? We do it in the heart of the worst months of the year. It's the coldest, it's the sickest that anybody gets. And then it seemed like this winter, like you were mentioning before, it wasn't just 1 month that people were getting sick. It was like it was a constant battle.
Mhm.
And then obviously on top of that, injuries are just, a lot of people had injuries this year. A lot of kids suffered some injuries that ended their season, and then some of them just made the season very difficult for them to get through successfully. But yeah, those things you can't control, and you kind of just hope that you have the luck on your side to not have to deal with as much of that, or you do, and it's just the right time that you're recovered by the end of the year.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. You guys are definitely, from my perspective, just as somebody outside viewing, you guys are doing a lot of good things, and you can see that things that you're doing are working. So just continue down the path.
Appreciate it.
What else? What else do you guys have coming up next? Off-season stuff. Like, how do you frame that? Do you have off-season tournaments? That type of.
Yeah, so we started off-season stuff as soon as middle school and kids club kind of ended their season. We started up last week. We just run it 3 nights a week. People around the program, I do 1 night a week, and another coach does another night, so on and so forth. And we kind of just split it up. I was never huge into freestyle as far as like understanding all the technique growing up. But we have some other coaches that have spent more time in that, and they focus more specifically freestyle technique and stuff. I spent a lot of time on the umbrella of wrestling, so we've been spending a lot of time on just positioning and things like that. But yeah, we'll run that until freestyle state and all that stuff goes through. We're getting a lot of kids that are more interested in continuing to compete in the off season. Again, they're seeing bits of success, and they want to continue to add on to their success. So our big tournament that we run through our kids club, high school and middle school, we kind of all come together as a program. We put it on. Kids club takes the majority of the planning, but we staff it and provide refs and security and whatever else that they need. But we do a takedown under the lights tournament that's on June 14th. So we'll put it on the football field, and we'll roll the mats out there, and we'll do a takedown tournament under the lights. So that's a fun experience for the kids. We did it a few years ago, and then last year we brought it back, and I think we had over 500 kids coming down and competing in it, and it was kids from Missouri and Iowa and Wisconsin, and kids came from all over. So that was cool to see. But other than that, we don't do anything hosting of any tournaments, but we'll have some kids going to compete at some freestyle and Greco and folk style tournaments throughout the off season. So
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited for some of those off-season events. I'm working right now on some off-season folk style series. I think sometimes some of the kids can get lost in the freestyle circuit. I don't know how to communicate it a little bit, but I personally think that a lot of high school wrestlers that are still developing their skills can really use more folk style as opposed to freestyle. Certain positions, you just need to continue to get comfortable in scramble positions. You still got to get comfortable in positions that in freestyle, it's just, you're not wrestling the same place. But yeah, I mean, to each their own. whoever goes and competes in the off season is probably going to get a little bit better each and every day. So that's good.
That's all I ask is they just keep staying on the mat. I don't even care if they compete. I mean, it's great if they wrestle in a few tournaments here or there, but if they're showing up to our off season, I mean, that's where they're going to see the biggest. Even if they don't think they're growing in their technique, they are, because it's just. I mean, yesterday we were talking about how we grab our single leg, because I was just like, I'm tired of seeing two hands split on a leg. I'm like, oh, it's going to drive me crazy. So we spent probably 5-10 minutes on attacking a single leg and grabbing your own hand. And it's just those small technique pieces that I feel like we can spend more time and focus on in the off season versus when we're in the thick of everything in November and December.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you want to leave with?
No, I appreciate you having me on. No, I'm just excited for Sandwich Wrestling. Like I said, we had, I think, 4 seniors again this year graduate from the 3 we had last year. So the majority of our kids, or even our junior class, while there's some serious talent there, it's still not our big class. The sophomores and the freshmen this year both have over 10, 12 kids in each of that class. And if we just add this 20-person class next year, I mean, I'm just excited. We're building something that is going to have depth and the pieces that,
that's awesome.
I'm ready to be, the Coal Cities of the world and sending 13 or 14 kids down to the state tournament, if that's ever possible in our sectional. But
yeah, if it's done, that team will be one special team. That's for sure.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thanks for jumping on, and we will be in touch soon. Great season.
All right. Thanks, Dalton.